before being blackened by toxic smoke and the deafening clatter of iron forging, before becoming a hideous scar on the face of Middle-earth. Isengard was once a masterpiece, a true wonder of the ancient world, where the beauty of Mother Nature blended perfectly with the masterful, creative hands of human kings. Let us go back in time, past the mists of the Second and Third Ages. Lying quietly at the southernmost tip of the great misty mountains, there was a lush green valley named Nan Curunír, the Wizard's Vale. But long before any wizard set foot there, this place was found and built by the exiled Númenóreans, the great ancestors of the Kingdom of Gondor. They did not destroy nature to erect a fortress. Instead, they utilized the natural crescent terrain of the Rocky Mountains to create the Ring of Isengard. It was a massive, towering stone wall embracing a vast plain. Inside that great ring was not a barren military staging area. It was a veritable Garden of Eden. Giant ancient trees with wide canopies cast cool shadows. Velvety green lawns stretched out, dotted with tens of thousands of wild buds blooming under the sun. The gentle river Isen meandered through, carrying cool water from the snowy peaks, nourishing even the tiniest sprouts of life in the valley. Any traveler stepping through the giant stone archway of Isengard would feel as if they had just stepped into a dreamland, where serenity reigned and war was merely a distant concept in another world. And reigning right at the center, the heart of that Garden of Eden, was an architectural wonder that eclipsed all other structures on Earth, the Tower of Orthanc. Orthanc was not built from bricks stacked upon each other by the labor of tens of thousands of workers. According to the ancient legends recorded in the parchments at the library of Minas Tirith, this tower seemed to be created from the very core of the earth, by a kind of architectural magic of the Númenóreans that has been forever lost. 4 giant, multifaceted stone pillars were melted and fused into a single black monolith. The surface of the Tower of Orthanc was harder than any forged steel. No weapon, no siege engine, and no fire could create even a scratch on its glossy black shell. The tower was so tall that its peak split into 4 sharp points, reaching up to grab the clouds. Standing atop the tower, nestled between those 4 sharp points, was a small courtyard, paved with stones, deeply engraved with brilliant astronomical characters. The original function of Orthanc was exceedingly noble. It was not a dungeon or a watchtower to hold prisoners. It was the northern observatory of the Kingdom of Gondor. From the top of Orthanc, the kings could cast their gaze over the entire plains of Rohan and the treacherous trails leading into the mountains. Inside the tower, one of the 7 Palantir seeing stones was solemnly placed on an ancient stone pedestal. Orthanc was once a beacon of civilization, a symbol of pride and strength, protecting the free world from the phantoms lurking in the shadows. In the year 2759 of the Third Age, a landmark event took place. As the power of Gondor began to wane and the darkness started to threaten the borders, the ruling steward of Gondor, Beren, made a historic decision, handing the supreme key of the Tower of Orthanc to Saruman the White. The arrival of the greatest wizard, the head of the White Council, was considered a blessing by all of Middle-earth. When Saruman first took over Isengard, he harbored no malicious intent to destroy. On the contrary, during his first decades, he loved this land with a wise man's love for tranquility. Saruman often strolled under the dense canopies of the Ring of Isengard, listening to the whisper of the wind through the leaves and the clear singing of birds every dawn. He turned Orthanc into a fortress of knowledge. The empty rooms were filled with thousands of ancient books, precious parchment scrolls, and relics of bygone eras. Here, he studied the movements of the stars, the history of kings, and the nature of magic. During those golden years, Isengard was a place of absolute safety. Anyone wandering here is sheltered by the blinding white aura of the wizard. The valley was brimming with life. The trees were green. The river water was crystal clear. The scene was so beautiful and peaceful that no one, not even the wisest elves or Saruman himself, could imagine the terrifying prospect waiting to swallow this place. But everything has a cracking point, and the cracking point of Isengard did not come from underground seismic tremors or an attack from an external army. It came from the very mind of the one holding the most powerful key. When the tranquility of academia was replaced by greed, when wisdom gave way to arrogance, the Garden of Eden Isengard inadvertently became the most fertile ground to incubate one of the most horrific hells on Earth history had ever witnessed. The collapse of a mountain range begins with a tiny crack underground, and the corruption of the Garden of Eden Isengard began from the moment the mind of the White Wizard was manipulated. When Saruman delved into the Palantir Seeing Stone and secretly communicated with the Dark Lord Sauron, an evil venom slowly infected the roots of his soul. But Saruman's corruption bore an extremely cruel characteristic. He did not turn into a roaring, bloodthirsty monster. Before descending to the mortal realm, both Saruman and Sauron had been the most outstanding students of Aula, the smith god, who governed matter and the mineral layers underground. When falling into the vortex of evil, that ego surged up stronger than ever, but in a twisted and sickly form. The Ent Treebeard, Fangorn, the most ancient creature of the forest, once gave the most bitter and accurate remark about this transformation. He has a mind of metal and wheels. That was a devastating philosophical shift. In Saruman's eyes now, the natural world was no longer a vibrant ecosystem needing to be cherished. When the wizard looked at a giant oak tree thousands of years old, he no longer saw the beauty of the canopy or the life buzzing in every fiber of wood. He only saw fuel. When he looked down at the lush green lawns beneath his feet, he did not see life sprouting. He only saw the bothersome covering hiding the raw material that was the iron ore underneath. Every living creature, every stream, every hill was converted into pragmatic numbers to serve the great war machine he yearned to build. The mind of Wheels had officially pronounced the death sentence for the beautiful valley of Nan Curunír. The first swing of the axe, striking down on the trunk of an ancient tree, marked the moment the Garden of Eden was torn apart. Saruman did not do those dirty jobs himself. He opened wide the gates of Isengard, welcoming the hideous orc packs, creatures naturally shunned by sunlight, into the sacred land. Under the cold command of the wizard, the monsters began a campaign of destroying nature at a terrifying speed. The area on the edge of Fangorn Forest, where branches once stretched out to shelter Isengard, became the first victim. Hundreds, then thousands, of ancient trees were ruthlessly felled. The sharp, cruel axes chopped off roots that had clung deep into the earth since the Elder Days. In J.R.R. Tolkien's world, trees also have souls, they also know pain. The sap pouring out from the severed trunks looked exactly like the thick, coagulated blood of nature crying out in silence. The orcs did not just chop trees for wood. They chopped trees with a sickly pleasure of destroying beauty. The massive trunks were hacked, chopped into small pieces, and piled into giant mountains of firewood. The lush green lawns that once cast cool shadows were now trampled under the tens of thousands of footsteps of the orcs, turning into foul, muddy puddles. The sound of leaves rustling in the wind and birds singing clearly every early morning was completely silenced. The peaceful atmosphere was replaced by savage screams, growls in the black speech, and the ear-piercing sound of sawing and tearing wood that never ceased. A gray layer of fog began to creep in and gnaw at the valley. But chopping trees was only the tip of the iceberg in the process of murdering nature. To satisfy the ambition of a mind of metal, Saruman needed a true industrial factory, and to have space for that factory, he decided to gut the very belly of Mother Earth. The green grass layer on the surface was quickly stripped away completely, exposing patches of barren, rocky soil. Saruman's minions used explosives and pickaxes to dig deep down to the bedrock foundation layer of the Ring of Isengard. The valley of Nan Curunír, once flat and beautiful, was now gouged into countless giant holes, pitch black, deep like artificial craters. Deep beneath those craters, giant forges and blast furnaces were built. Fires began to be lit, not the warm fire of a hearth, but the aggressive, hungry fire of heavy industry, fed by thousands of tons of wood from the corpses of Fangorn Forest. From the underground tunnels, thick black pillars of smoke, full of soot and sulfur, began to billow up, suffocating the sky. The brilliant sunlight was blocked by the thick curtain of smoke and dust. The once glossy black Tower of Orthanc now stood bare amidst a space enveloped by ash and toxic fog. The great Ring of Isengard was no longer a wall protecting a Garden of Eden. It turned into the rim of a giant, boiling cauldron of oil. The beauty of nature was dead. The war machine of the White Wizard had officially started. Isengard was no longer a noun denoting a place name. It had become a verb for destruction. If the surface of Isengard had been mangled beyond recognition, its underground world was truly a level of hell, straight out of the worst nightmares. The great White Wizard, who once cherished ancient books and was fascinated by the stars, had now become the sickly warden of a giant industrial factory. The entire foundation of the valley of Nan Curunír had been hollowed out, creating a crisscrossing system of underground tunnels like a giant ant nest. In those suffocating tunnels, thick with the smell of sulfur, day and night no longer held meaning. The only light came from tens of thousands of blazing torches and giant blast furnaces boiling iron ore. Everywhere was a system of crude, mechanical industrial assembly lines, yet chillingly efficient. Giant wooden and iron cogwheels cranked and grinded. Chains as thick as a human thigh slid on rusted pulleys to haul up cages full of ore and coal. The sound here was not the sound of life, but the mechanical heartbeat of a breathing monster. The clanking of hammers hitting iron anvils, the puffing of forge bellows pumping air, mixed with the hissing of newly forged sword blades being plunged into muddy puddles of water. Saruman drained the strength of tens of thousands of orcs, forcing them to work themselves to death to create crude, heavy weapons, devoid of any artistry like elven weapons, purely serving a single purpose: piercing armor and hacking through flesh and bone. However, Saruman's most disgusting crime did not lie in forging swords and blades or destroying the environment. The greatest crime, the ultimate blasphemy against the Creator, lay in the dampest and foulest hidden corner of this underground tunnel system: biological crossbreeding. Sauron had hundreds of thousands of orcs in Mordor, but orcs by nature are weak, cowardly, undisciplined creatures, and especially terrified of sunlight. Such an army did not meet the perfect standard in Saruman's mind of metal. The wizard wanted a flawless army, and through the darkest forbidden arts, possibly a blending of flesh and blood between orcs and those bearing evil human blood from the south, Saruman created an entirely new species, the Uruk-hai. Director Peter Jackson visualized this breeding process with one of the most haunting scenes in cinema history. The Uruk-hai were not born naturally. They were incubated inside slimy cocoons, buried under thick, muddy puddles of garbage and black magic. When the membrane was torn open, an Uruk-hai emerged, sticky, panting, but immediately displaying terrifying physical strength. They didn't need to grow up or train. They were born in a mature form, with bulging muscles, and within their brains, only one ideology was implanted: Saruman's command. The Uruk-hai were the perfect crystallization of Saruman's corruption. They were larger, faster, and had more persistent endurance than normal orcs. But the most terrifying thing was that they did not falter before the sunlight. They had no fear, no mercy, no free will. They were biological killing machines in humanoid form. By creating the Uruk-hai, Saruman reached the pinnacle of arrogance. He considered himself God, waving his hand to mold a new race to serve his own delusional throne. Under the pressure of an evil industry operating at full capacity, the valley of Isengard had completely died. The river Isen, once the pure water source nourishing the land, had now been dammed with wooden and rubble barriers to divert water into the weapon-cooling furnaces. When it flowed out, the water had turned a thick, foul-smelling black, carrying a film of grease and poison that killed every living creature along its basin. Nature had been drained to feed war. In just a short time, from the filthy underground pits, a massive army poured out onto the surface. The audience could not help but shudder witnessing tens of thousands of Uruk-hai warriors wearing heavy iron armor, holding rough shields engraved with the White Hand, Saruman's new symbol of power. They stood in neat ranks, the synchronized stomping of their feet shaking the very earth, their collective growling creating a suffocating, murderous aura enveloping the entire space. Saruman stood on the soaring balcony of the glossy black Tower of Orthanc, looking down at his achievement. The wizard no longer hid his ambition. He confidently delivered a speech to the tens of thousands of monsters, declaring a new era, the era of power, the era of the Uruk-hai. Isengard was now no longer the Northern Observatory, nor was it the Library of Wise Men. It had become a poisoned dagger, honed to a razor edge and pointing straight at the throat of the Kingdom of Rohan. A hell on earth had been perfected, and now its gates were thrown wide open to spew flesh and blood nightmares across all of Middle-earth. But in his bloodlust for power and arrogance, Saruman forgot a cardinal taboo. Mother Nature can silently endure destruction for a long time, but once her ancient wrath is awakened, the punishment will be absolute annihilation. In the utmost arrogance of a pragmatic mind, Saruman committed the most fatal mistake of one with a mechanical mindset. He evaluated all things through the prism of lifeless stillness. He considered Fangorn Forest to be merely a giant, unresisting wood warehouse, lifeless logs waiting to be thrown into the furnace. But in J.R.R. Tolkien's legendary world, Mother Nature is never a permanently silent victim. When the cruel axes of the orc packs slash down the thousands of years-old sprouts of life, the extreme agony of the old forest bled through the veins of all things, transmitting deep into the center of Fangorn, and it awakened the most ancient creatures of Middle-earth, the Ents, the tree shepherds. Treebeard, the oldest Ent, who had strolled under the leafy canopies since the world was still bathed in the starlight of the Elder Days, stood stunned before the belt of death created by Saruman. The felled trees were not just vegetation. To Treebeard, they were close friends whose faces he knew, whose names he had memorized since they were tiny seeds. His sorrow did not translate into impulsive screams. The wrath of nature was silent, deep, but carried the weight of an entire compressed lithosphere. The Entmoot took place with slow patience. The Ents do nothing hastily. They took days just to greet and call each other by name in their ancient language. This slowness contrasted completely with the hurried, bustling pace of industry at Isengard. But that very slowness was a cruel warning. Once nature has made up its mind, that decision is unshakable, irreversible, and there is no room for mercy. The death sentence for Saruman for the crime of betraying life had been pronounced. And then, the last march of the Ents began. The most epic, chilling, and grandest spectacle in the annals of the Third Age. Saruman had made a fatal strategic error, overconfident in his invincibility, and wanting to quickly wipe out the kingdom of Rohan, he had poured out his entire army of 10,000 Uruk-hai, leaving Isengard. The massive industrial fortress was now left with only a fragile orc garrison force. The wizard had locked all paths for men, but forgot to look towards the forest. When the legion of tree men descended upon the ring of Isengard, it was not a battle, it was a cleanup, a great deluge of wood and roots. The panicked orcs poured rains of flaming arrows down on the Ents. Some Ents caught fire, screaming in pain, but the fire only further ignited their primal fury. The strength of the Ents was the strength of the lithosphere, of roots that had crushed boulders to seek water. With their giant, rough hands, they tore apart the sturdy walls of Isengard, like tearing thin crusts of bread. The catapult machines that took months to build were smashed to splinters with a single swipe of an arm. The rusted iron and steel cogwheels were twisted and deformed under the pulling force of the rippling wood fibers. The orcs were trampled flat under giant feet or thrown into the air like broken toys. Saruman, the one who once beat his chest, proclaiming himself the god of the New Age, the one who believed iron and steel could crush all living beings, now could only stand cowering on the balcony of Orthanc Tower, his eyes wide in absolute terror. He realized a bitter truth. The mind of wheels and machinery, no matter how sophisticated, was just petty trash when facing the awakened power of the Earth's roots. But to truly eradicate a hell on Earth, superficial physical destruction is not enough. The dark underground tunnels, housing the filthy blast furnaces and the mutant breeding cocoons, needed to be purged. Nature demanded a ruthless baptism. Under the leadership of Treebeard, the Ents broke the giant dam blocking the river Isen. The audience witnessed a moment of great purification. The pure water accumulated for so long was released into a giant wall of water, roaring as it crashed down into the valley of Nan Curunír. The water rushed into the pitch-black pits, plunging into the labyrinth of tunnels. A terrifying, sizzling sound rang out as tens of thousands of tons of freezing water collided with the glowing red blast furnaces. Steam billowed up blindingly, obscuring the entire sky. The deluge washed everything away. The water drowned the hiding monsters, washed away the dark pools of blood, swept away the toxic layer of sulfur soot, and completely extinguished the industrial fires that had once threatened to burn down the world. When dawn broke and the steam dissipated, the brutal scene of yesterday had completely vanished. The Valley of Isengard was now a vast, placid, and crystal-clear lake reflecting the sunlight. The black Tower of Orthanc still stood firmly in the middle of the lake, completely unchipped because it bore within it the magic of the ancient age. But it was no longer a fortress of power. It had turned into an isolated water prison, permanently holding the White Wizard and his shattered pride. Saruman's era of iron, steel, cogwheels, and soot was officially buried, not by heroes wielding shining swords and spears, but by the very tree roots, blades of grass, and streams of water he had once despised. The story of the transformation and death of Isengard closes, leaving us an era-transcending cautionary tale. He who rises by trampling and destroying Mother Nature will ultimately be swallowed into oblivion by nature herself.